Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Over the past couple of months I've been slowly collecting the three Jinhao Dadao pens, the 9013, the 9016 and the 9019. Now I've done first impressions on all of these. What I thought I'd do today is just do a quick comparison between the three of them. So join me now, down on the table, let's jump on in and explore these pens. Welcome down to the table. I thought we'd start by having a quick look at them all together just so you can see the size differences. So we've got the 9013, the 9016 and the 9019. So we've got definite differences in sizes. I'm just going to fetch in the Pilot Metropolitan and the Lamy Safari just so you get a rough idea of comparisons against these two standard pens. Let me just move that Safari up a little bit more. So there we've got all three pens with their size comparisons. Move these out of the way. It's time to take a closer look at each of the pens. We'll start with the 9013. We'll go up in numerical order. This was actually the last of the three that I bought. I love this green colour. Beautiful transparent green, very vibrant colour. I like the fact that it's transparent. Also in this material, not sure if it captures on the camera. Again, let me see if I can get a bit more central there. The material's full of sparkles as well, which adds a little bit of a pop, a little bit more visual interest to it. Taking the body off, here we can see we've got what looks like a standard Jinhao converter. Metal fittings. Whoops. There we go. The material continues down to the section. The section, yeah, it's a nice fit. It doesn't feel too small. It does feel a little bit short though when it's unposted. But if I post the pen, it does feel quite nice. Although maybe it's got a little bit of weight in the back, which I don't quite like, but that's very personal. I do find this though, it's usable unposted. The nib, this is a heartbeat nib. So let me just fetch this up to the camera a bit. Hopefully you can see that. There we go. So it's got that heartbeat there in the tines. Quite unusual, quite nice. So we'll write with this. So we've got a Jinhao. I'm just going to put the number. They're all Dadao pens. So it's the 9013 and it's got a medium nib. The price for this, 12 Aussie dollars. The ink is by Diamine and it's Appletini. I do think this ink is a really good match for this pen. Let's do our Wasky Squirrel grid. Here we go. There we go. So we go up and down, side to side, and then cross hatches, going diagonal, and then up and down again. Nice flow, writes really well. Drying times. So there's immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. After a minute, teeny tiny little smudge, but not really enough to worry about. I really like this. I say it's quite enjoyable. Does feel to me a bit on the small side, but I've got larger hands. So I think if you've got smaller hands, this might be quite comfortable for you. So that's the 9013. Next up, we've got the 9016. I've got this one in this brown colour. Just going to move this paper up a little bit underneath it. Let's get rid of the title. We don't need to see the title. There we are. We can get all the writing now on the same page. Nice brown colour. Don't see the sparkles in the material in this, unlike I was seeing with that green. Again, it's transparent. Taking off the body, this time we can see we've got a different converter. We've got a larger converter. This converter's in this pen and also in the 9019. Takes a lot more ink. Again, it was metal fittings. Material, like with the 9013, continuing down into the section. The section now is a bit wider, so it does feel quite comfortable, but we've got a little bit more length on this, so it does feel quite nice in the hand. This is quite pleasant for me to use. The nib, also the heartbeat nib. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. I'll fetch it up to the camera. I mean, that's better. Actually, in the camera does help, doesn't it? There we go, that heartbeat nib. So we've got here a Jinhao 9016, also with a medium nib. Price for this one, 13 Aussie dollars. The ink is by Diamine, and it's ochre. An ink I don't use nowhere near often enough. Again, I think it's another good match there for the ink. Let's do our grid. There's going up and down, side to side, diagonals, and the grid. Drying times, we've got immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. After a minute, it's still smudging quite a bit. Let's go on and do a 2-minute test. After a minute there, that's nice and dry, but we expected that. I just thought I'd do it because we were still smudging a fair bit. Again, it's a pleasant pen. Really nice to write with. I like this colour. I do like this brown. I'm into brown ink, so this is quite a good match because I like to match my pen and ink. And it does feel quite comfortable in the hand. So that's the 9016. The last pen, this is the 9019. This is the larger of the pens. This is the bluish colour. Again, I don't see any of those sparkles in the material, which is a shame because I think that little bit of sparkle just adds that visual interest. Just looking through there. Let's take that off and we'll see we've got again that larger converter. The converter does look slightly different than the one we've got in the 9016. Let me fetch in the 9016 to compare. Oh, it squeaked a bit there. So size-wise, very similar. The mechanism though here, we've got metal on the 9019. I've got a plastic one here on the 9016. Not sure if that's on all the 9019s, but certainly on my particular one, that's the case. Let me pop it back together. The section, very wide. It's a fat pen. You notice this when you're holding it. If you've got large hands, if you've got things like arthritis where a larger pen is more comfortable, this is something well worth thinking about. Really nice it is. Again, the section, same material. The nib this time, it's not a heartbeat nib, but it's a number 8 nib. Both the other two pens were number 6 nibs. So if you're after trying those larger nibs, this one is the one for you of these three. And the bigger nib with the bigger pen looks just right. I think with the number 6 nib, it would just be that little bit too small and may look a little bit strange on here. So we've got here the Jinhao 9019. The nib is also medium. Price wise, strangely enough, when I got this, this was 12 Aussie dollars, so cheaper than the 9016. Bit weird that. The ink is by Dominant Industry. And it's Lake. Do like the colour of this ink. We'll do our grid. So up and down, side to side, diagonal, and a grid. It's another one where I think the pen body does quite well match that ink. Let's see how it dries. So here's 1 minute, 10 seconds. So Gary's brain had abandoned him. That first one was immediate, not 1 minute. 30 seconds. One minute. Well, still fairly wet there. A 2-minute test. Two minutes and we're still slightly wet. So a very wet combo there. Do you know, I've just noticed I put 9010. It's 9019. I don't know. I think my brain must need to be reset today. So this is the Jinhao 9019, the beast of a pen. What I'm going to do next is write a sentence with each of the pens. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. You know, would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? All down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. I'm going to fetch the pens out in the same order and write a sentence with them. What I'm going to do for each sentence is move the mic down to the page so you can hopefully hear the pen writing. We start with the 9013. It's nice audible feedback. Not a lot of tactile feedback. It doesn't feel smooth, it doesn't feel glassy, but equally it doesn't feel scratchy. The one thing I did notice, how uncomfortable it feels when I'm writing with it when it's unposted. So I'll have to play around with this, but certainly for me, I just found that a bit on the short side. Do like the little bits of shading there I'm seeing in this ink. So that's the 9013. Next up, the 9016. That was more comfortable to use. It was more comfortable in the hand. That slight extra length and slight extra width does have to make a difference. In terms of the way the nib was performing on the paper, now this paper is Ayush paper. It's 100 GSM paper and there's a little bit of a texture to it and it's a slight creamy colour. The nib felt exactly the same as the 9013. I would expect that. They're essentially the same nib, so quite consistent in them terms. So that's a 9016. Lastly, we have the 9019, the Beast pen. There we go. This pen, it does feel what it is. It feels large. It is a large pen. I say I've got fairly large hands, and sometimes I do find this pen can feel just too big, which is a shame. I think if the section was a little bit narrower, may make a difference because that section is a big one. I like the nib. The nib, it's whispering, whereas the other two, it was more like they were talking, so it's slightly quieter. And it's like you can hear somebody off to the side whispering. You can't hear what they're saying, but you can just hear that shh, shh, shh type noise. I know, very descriptive of me. That's what it sounds like to me. It also feels a little bit smoother, a little bit, I don't want to say it's slippy or glassy, but it doesn't feel to have the same texture, the same tactileness coming through the nib as with the other two. It's still pleasant. I still enjoy it. So that's the 9019. Let me just reposition the page and we'll take one final look at the pens. So today's pens, the Jinhao 9013 with Diamine Appletini, the Jinhao 9016 with Diamine Ochre, and the Jinhao 9019 with Dominant Industry Lake. If I was asked to pick a favourite of these three, I'm going to go for the 9016. A bit like Goldilocks, the 9013 is a little bit too small. The 9019 is a little bit too big, whereas that 9016, that's just right. So they're my thoughts on the Jinhao Dadao pens. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Do you have any of these pens? Have you got all three? Have you compared them against each other? I'd love to know what you think of them. Please drop your comments down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.